They were gone for months. At last, one ship returned. Mansa Abu Bakr questioned the captain when they returned. The captain said, "We have sailed for a long time until we saw in the midst of the ocean, as if it was a big river, was flowing violently. My boat was the last one. Others were ahead of me. As soon as any of them reached this place, it drowned them in the whirlpool and they never came out. I sailed backwards to escape the current." The captain explained how he barely escaped being drowned by the massive whirlpool and could have been unable to sail home. Keep in mind, this whirlpool that he was telling Abu Bakr about was the Bermuda Triangle, where a group of beings live who used to live on a planet called Meldeck that got exploded after the grand mothership Nibiru came into this solar system 24 billion years ago. They are 4-foot tall reptilians. They are the original reptilians. The reptilians come out of them, the Dragonians, right? And it's advanced cities down there in what they're calling the Bermuda Triangle that's been down there billions of years, right? Along with a crystal pyramid that sends up frequencies. And what that vortex, that the whirlpool that this captain was talking about, it's like an hourglass. And that hourglass drains out and tunnels out to the ocean in the center of the earth called the Argon Ocean, right? So these beings got sucked down, 6,000 men got sucked down into the vortex to the Bermuda Triangle and got sucked to the center of the earth. And they are still living in the center of the earth today. Some of them are over 700 years old. Mandingas in the 1306 who got sucked down into the hole. And keep in mind, Billy Woodrick's already told you that he's seen, see, he didn't tell you about the Mandingos that he's seen, the Africans, right? Because that would spoil everything now, wouldn't it? But he gonna tell you about Amelia Earhart, who's one of the beings, and there's several other beings down there that got sucked into this vortex in the Bermuda Triangle, right? Into the Argon Ocean. The Argon Ocean is bigger than the Atlantic and the Pacific put together. It's on the center of the earth. And they got mountains higher. Go back and get that tape. Shambhala. I think it's, 27? Yes, I think it's 27. Galactic Family of Life. Go back and get that tape. We break that down up in there. 400 survived and got washed up, right, onto certain islands in the Bermuda Triangle. 400 of them. Mansa Abu Bakr II didn't believe nothing the captain said. So he said, "Let me get 400 more ships. And this time, I'm going to sail with you." He instructed his captain to sail below, around the whirlwind below, where they passed by the islands and landed in South America. Then they traveled to Central America, or Central Amexem, right? Where they encountered a group of beings who were called the Aztec at the time, who were direct descendants of the Almax, who were Nubians, who had migrated millions of years before continental drift all the way over to this area, right? The Aztecs were a combination of like 3 different mixes, or really 2 mixes. The mix is the Almax, the Nubians, who were originally the Sans people of South Africa, mixed with extraterrestrial. They were the Homo sapiens, the Homo erectus, the Sans people, right? These people were mixed in with these Anunnakis and became known as the New Beings. And these beings migrated over to America, Mexam, or Turtle Island, the North Gate, right? Millions of years prior, he knows that. But they gonna tell you, and keep in mind, Almac, as in Old Amexem, and these people were the rubber people who brought the rubber tree from South America when they came to Amexem, which is being called America today. Nubians have been playing football, which is really called soccer, and rugby, which is really football, right? Basketball, lacrosse, volleyball, and tennis. All these sports have been played for millions of years, right? Before the Caucasian, the European even arrived. The Caucasian, the so-called European, right? We say so-called European because Nubians was already in Europe. And he admits that he didn't make it to America till 1492 by way of Christopher Tickle Me Columbus. He tickles me because you say that Christopher Columbus discovered America. What a way to piss on a guy and call it rain. And really, the Almac helmet, big head sculpture that you see, is nothing but a football helmet. It's nothing but an original football helmet. If they was to show you the whole structure of the whole being's body, you'll see that they wearing nothing but football pads and knee pads and something to cover their Johnson, right, called a jock strap. They was to dig their head all the way up and show it to you. They'll show you that these beings was already playing sports. Football goes back millions of years. And you tell me about some damn National Football League? The National Football League is thousands of years before the European even came over, man. Right? Christopher Tickle Me Columbus said that when he got over here, he saw indigo, as in black, dark skin, bouncing rubber balls. So these Almax were already playing football and basketball, honking and dumping and crossing over for millions of years already in the mixer. So stop playing with us, man. You know what time it is. We're in the sun cycle. We're going to the divine plane of truth, the divine plane of reality, so it's time these things be revealed. There's no need for a shriner no more to guard our tombs. We awoke now. This is the return of the Moors. And be careful when they use the word national, right? Because national is short for nationality, and none of the people who own the National Football League has the status to even be owning anything dealing with national in Old Mexico. Turtle Island, the North Gate, right? So when Abu Bakr landed over here, he seen these Aztecs who were a mix between the Nubians, Almax, and the Chinese. Cause keep in mind, Hu Shin sailed over here at 459 with 1,000 ships and landed in California, where they were allowed to mix in with our daughters and sons and created what you call the Aztecs, the Hopi. You can clearly look at these people and tell that they have Chinese in them. In the midst of this, the Hindus, right, being from India, which is really Hindustan, right, also traveled over here and began mixing in with these beings, creating a whole nother type of people, right? So you got 3 different mixes. And this is prior to Abu Bakr II making it over here. So we break all that down, right? Because Hoshin, like we said, 459 AD came over here, right? So now we got the Mexicans. The Mexicans are Chinese and Almac descent. When the Almacs seen Abu Bakr, they mistaken him for Inky, right? Who they refer to as Quetzalcoatl, which means the precious serpent, because Inky was nice to them, right? Inky made them the richest people in the world. So we got to go back. So how did these Almacs get the gold, which trickled down to their children, the Aztecs? The Nubians, right, also called the Almacs, walked over here with gold from Africa, right? Keep in mind, Africa is the richest country in the world when it comes to gold. And they're finding gold all over the ground right now in Africa as we speak. Then they began mining gold when they got over here. We're gonna get into that a little later on another tape. That ties into some deep stuff right there. But the bulk of the gold came from a being by the name of Inky, who was the son of Anu, right? He was part Anunnaki, Arisian, and part Dragonian of Tiamat. His mother was a Dragonian princess, which Anu married to make a treaty in order to get minerals from Tiamat. They birthed a son by the name of Enki, and Enki means ruler of Ki. He is the son of Anu, who is Raziel the first. Anu also had another son by his half-sister named Ili. And keep in mind, this took place before the Great Crash, 24 billion years ago. Ili and Enki were the 2 sons of Anu who were placed in charge of the business, the mining business of getting the gold and other minerals from Earth. The people of Earth didn't like Ili, and they favored Enki because Enki was one of them, meaning he was part Dragonians. Keep in mind, we've been coming here for quite some time to collect minerals because Anu had a business called Ridge Tech, headed by Anu's son, Raziel II, who is the 15th elder. Raziel is a master scientist, a master chemist, right? And he was taught by his father, Anu. He and his wife run Ridge Tech, and we design many different types of technology. Some you refer to as UFOs. The flying saucer joint is the old stuff. We formulate the Baba Dabas out of solid crystal crystals and gold and rubies and stone. You want to see it? Go to Revelations 21, right? And we have several other different technologies that we created. The Stargate is one of them, made from element 125 Naquata, which they haven't got a whole bunch of yet because they can't synthesize it. It's not found on Earth, right? So there were other planets who we made deals with because it was a business. We have a business to get other elements, which is why Anu has close to 80 wives and thousands of children, right? So it was a business. Most of these wives were done to make a treaty, a business transaction, in order to get certain minerals to take back to our business. Because keep in mind, we told you when we first came here, we were making planets, right, on Saturn. Ansar's business, which is Anu's father, was remodeling planets. We are carpenters. We are engineers. We are the great builders, the great mound builders, right? So it was all based on business. So the people of Earth, the Dragonians, didn't really trust Ili, but they trusted Enki. So Enki was placed in charge of the gold transaction, the great gold transaction. Keep in mind, there's other business transactions that's going on. Anu's brother, Allelu, who Anu hired as a galactic ambassador, right, to be the most mid, sort of like the vice president, he placed them in charge of the Galactic United Nations in the Orion system. You see, Orion is an international center point for all the beings in the galaxy to get acquainted, right? And we already broke that down for you. It's a place where they hold court for galactic criminals, beings who have broken galactic law. Because as it is above, so is it below. People are tried here for galactic crimes. And Allelu was placed in charge by Anu as the most mid, the vice president. Anu got word that Allelu wasn't handling his business and ultimately fired him. And keep in mind, he was already mad about losing the competition for being the most high. He had already felt like our family cheated him. So he already had a vendetta against Anu. After he got fired, he traveled to the star system Sirius to visit his father Ansar, because Anu designed Sirius. And keep in mind, Sirius is not that old, a couple billions of years, right? It's probably like about around 30 or 40 billion years old, because it's a blue star. And like we told you, blue stars are new stars. Actually, Sirius B is actually older than Sirius A. Sirius A was a new star that we formed to repay these Nomos for Sirius B, which had burned out, right, due to us passing by in the grand mothership Nuru and draining the energy from it. So we, who are the star builders, build them a new star, Sirius A. They also had a star prior to Sirius B, which was Sirius C, that burned out. When Allelu visited his father in Sirius, he stopped by some of the planets, right, because there were several water worlds where these beings called the Nomos lived, who originally migrated to that star system after they left this solar system billions of years ago. Before Allelu had got there, these Nomos beings had already mixed with the Hindus, because keep in mind, the Hindus come from Prokon, the Prokonian star system, the planet Nevada. On one of these worlds, Allelu encountered the head queen of the Nomos named Queen Mir, and that can be spelled M-I-R or M-E-R. And there were many different species of these Nomos, Mir people, but the humanoid species who had mixed with the Hindus were the ruling class. And Allelu wanted to get in bed with these people. Why? Because they had a beef with us because we burned out their star. But Queen Mir wouldn't mix with Allelu. Why? Because Allelu was not of her people, and she would only mate with her people. What did Allelu do? Being that we are scientists, he was able to slice his DNA with these Nomos, now making himself half fish, half Rizian or Anunnaki. And keep in mind, Anunnaki can cover several different species. But these Nomos fish beings, right, you refer to them as mermaids, originally, right, originated from here, then migrated to Sirius. When they got to Sirius, they began mixing with the Hindus. And Allelu sliced his DNA. Now, Allelu ended up marrying Queen Mir, and they began to have children. And they decided to move back to this solar system, right, to a planet that Allelu had designed during competition that was already suitable for them because it was covered 3/3 with water, called Neptune, a master's tomb. And they lived on Neptune prior to the crash. This is how they get back to Neptune. And keep in mind, we had a business going on here, dealing and exchanging minerals. Also, in the deal, we were supposed to exchange a certain amount of ships and technology with these beings as well. And keep in mind, these Nomos were eating humans, right? When they got back, Allelu needed a food source for his people, so he made deals with the Dragon reptilians in exchange for Aldebaran humans who originally were sold to these Dragon reptilians, right, to start their farm. They made deals with the Prokonians because the Aldebarans come from the Prokonians, who are originally Centaurians, right? Because you got to go all the way back, like I told you, to the first tapes where I told you about the Centaurian. And the Centaurians originated off this planet. They were Almax and Mayans who were taken off of the surface of the Earth and took into the Centaurian star system, which is one of the closest star systems to Earth. And they were given certain amounts of technology, and so they are us. But they were pulled to the 5th dimension and given certain technology, and right? So they are Centaurians who migrated billions and billions of years ago off the planet Earth, right? And then they migrated to Rajal, and then after the war in Rajal, they migrated to the Procon star system and became known as the Prokonians, right? Go back and get the tape called Who Are the Prokonians, right? We're just bringing you in. So the Dragonians set up a farm in the Aldebaran star system as a food source, and they were herding these beings, these Albanian Prokonians. They were herding them as a food source. And keep in mind, there's nothing personal about this. It's all business. Keep in mind, they moved back to Neptune before the crash. And keep in mind, Enki admired his uncle, which became his stepfather eventually. Before the crash, like we say, Enki was in charge of the gold, and he was building heavy equipment to mine the gold and all type of other heavy machinery to mine the gold. And they had these sands people working these heavy equipment. See, they tell you, they got the picture painted to you as these beings were using chisel and hammer. No, these beings were operating heavy equipment designed by Enki to mine the gold. A lot of the rivers and lakes and ponds is due to the Anunnaki digging the gold. Like the Great Lakes or like the Nile, a lot of these rivers and streams are due to the Anunnakis digging for gold. When Allelu came here, and he had been coming here prior, right? Because keep in mind, we landed here in this star system when we came to the galaxy, which is on the outskirts. But during this time, Allelu came here to visit because keep in mind, he was in on the goal as well. And when he came here, he began getting in his nephew's ear, right? Because in the galactics, minerals are galactic currency. Minerals is how you grow galactically because it's all business. He began telling them, you ought to take some of this gold for yourself. That you beating yourself. You turning all this gold into the Anunnakis, and what have they done for you? One of Allelu names when he came here, name was Dogon. The Greeks ran with that and called him Poseidon. He also was telling people that he was the Anu, which means Most High. Keep in mind, Allelu had already made a deal with the Dragonians in exchange for information, for Aldebaran slaves as a food source for his people. So they were already eating humans. When Allelu visited Earth and was checking the place out, and Enki was showing them around, showing them the different projects they had going on, he noticed the sand people, and he kidnapped one of the kids and ate him. When he ate the child, keep in mind these new beings, these sands people, had an adrenaline gland. So the kid was frightened, or the child was frightened. The adrenaline released into his bloodstream, hit the pituitary gland where it's mixed with oxygen in connection with the lungs, and created this thing called adrenochrome. So when Allelu bit down into the kid and ate him, the adrenochrome gave him a rush. And he was like, oh man, these people taste better than the Aldebarans, because the Aldebarans didn't have an adrenal gland. The adrenal gland sits above the kidneys. not every being, a human being that comes from other planets, have adrenal gland. And when the Dragonians came to make the deal with Allelu again to exchange for information on Anu's whereabouts, in exchange for these Aldebaran slaves as a food source for his people, he had a few Sans people. He began kidnapping and abducting these Sans people from Earth, or from Tiamat. And when it came for him time to make a deal with the reptilians to exchange those Aldebaran as a food source, which they later made clones of and used as avatars, and became known as Ashtar Command, the Nobody People. Called the Nobody People at first, until they hooked up with Ashtar Command, who were already the Nomos people, headed by a being named Hatun, right? So they became the Airborne Regiment. We already broke that down for you. The Air Force branch of these Nomos reptilians, because we keep in mind Allelu became one of the Nomos kings because he married the queen, right? Those who claim to know the most. So when the reptilians came, Allelu let them taste one of the Sans people children, and they experienced the adrenochrome, and it gave them a rush. And they was like, man, we gotta get some of these. So they made another deal with Allelu to herd 144,000 virgins, right, which is a code word for children, as a food source, so that they can take this 144,000 back to another planet that they had already laid out and start their own farm. This was a business deal. There's nothing personal about this.
A.E.O.